Welcome to the 1905 podcast. Joe and I have been going to Stamford Bridge for over 30 years. For the past 3 years, we've been exchanging voice notes on everything from the highs in Porto to the lows of Potter. Each week, this podcast will take you inside our unfiltered thoughts on all things Chelsea, sharing our view from Gate 13 of the Matthew Harding stand. Let's hit the notes. Okay, it is a live episode special of the 1905 podcast, so not something we do very often, but I'm with Joe via the magic of online video. How are you, Joe?
Good evening, sir. How are you? How's your day been?
It's been very nice, thank you. Very nice. The international break, the longest international break in the history of Chelsea Football Club, but actually kind of comes at quite a nice time, doesn't it? It's quite, you don't mind it for once.
Well, I've actually got the England game on in the background here, and it's currently England 0, Latvia 0, and it's been pretty dreadful so far. So I'll keep you updated if we score a goal, but at the moment it's 0-0.
Most important thing is that Reece James doesn't get injured, so just keep me posted on that. Right, so today, Joe and I are going to play the roles of Chelsea sporting directors. And can we do the job that Lawrence Stewart and Paul Winstanley do in trying to build the squad for next season? There's a funny story about this, which is that Joe and I basically started doing this very organically in the pub a couple of years ago. We've done it for the last 2 seasons, about this sort of time of year, isn't it, Joe? About March, April time. And basically going through kind of what the squad looks like and who we think Chelsea need to buy in the summer to strengthen and kind of what are the areas of concern. So as you can imagine, most years it ends up being we need a goalkeeper or a centre-back. So we thought we'd do it at this time of year as it's a nice, exactly. We thought it'd be a nice time of year to do it with the international break and have a look at kind of how much business we think there is to be done to give Chelsea a squad that could really compete for serious stuff next season. So we're going to go through position by position and kind of build our squad for the season. Now, a little bit of interesting insight this week was an article from The Athletic, which said that Chelsea are looking to build an outfield group for next season of about 24 first-team players. So a little bit more than the old days of Jose Mourinho, when the whole squad, including goalkeepers, would have been 23 players, wasn't it? It was like classically 2 players for every position and an extra goalkeeper. But I guess these days, with the number of games being played, all the competitions and stuff, they want a little bit of extra room. So we'll try and build it around that as well. And as we go through each area, we'll tell you kind of how many we're building. But we're going to start, obviously, with goalkeepers. And Joe, I'm going to list out the players that we have at the club now and also returning from loan. I'm going to do it in age of, and the ages that I'm saying here, by the way, are the ages that they'll be at the start of next season. So we have Bettinelli, 33, Kepa, 30, Big Rob Sanchez, 28, fan of the show, Jordi Petrovic, 26, Philip Jorgensen, 23, and then young Mike Penders at 20. So there's 6 in the group there, Joe. I guess the question to start is who are you keeping?
Well, are you going to name the other 6 that we've got out on loan or in the academy? No, I'm joking, of course.
The podcast isn't long enough.
Yeah, these are the 6 obviously main ones that will be either at the club or be returning to the club. In my opinion, the 2 keeps, the easy keeps, is Bettinelli because he's English and he doesn't cost anything, and apparently he's great banter around the dressing room, which I find hilarious because I've never even heard him speak before. The other one I'm keeping is Petrovic because I think all the noise coming out of Strasbourg is that he's improved massively. His kicking is improved a lot, and by kicking I mean he's passing out from the back. He's always been a good kicker. That's why Pochettino played him for so many games. My sells, nice and easy, is fan of the show Rob Sanchez and Kepa. That deal, again, I read an article today basically saying that I think Bournemouth are basically ready to trigger the 5 million release clause for him anyway, really, really soon. So them 2 are sells to me. The 2 that I'm unsure about is the noise coming out from Mike Penders, again, from The Athletic and from my own research, is that Penders could be better than everybody thinks. And I've kind of heard this myself through other sources that he's actually a very, very good goalkeeper. And if he was to come in and have a very, very good pre-season, there's a chance that he might be kept. If he is the second coming of Peter Cech, let's just say, I would definitely keep him, and I'd then loan out Jorgensen. If Penders turns out to be slightly inexperienced, doesn't have a big game experience, and they feel that he needs a year on loan to Strasbourg or somewhere else, then I would keep Jorgensen and I'd have Petrovic as my number one. So I don't know how you feel about that, but essentially I'm keeping Petrovic and Bettinelli, and hopefully we can keep Penders if he's very, very good, and loan out Jorgensen. But I don't think Penders is going to improve by sitting on the bench for 30, 40 games next season. If he's not going to play him, I feel like they need to loan him. That's my opinion. What do you think?
I like this. So, I mean, Bettinelli, just a quick one, because I looked into this, I thought it was interesting. I think he must have one of the best jobs in football. And I always think that about the third choice keeper. If you're not someone who's massively, at this point, ambitious about playing, he earns 35 grand a week. And he basically gets to be the banter man at the club and do his training, probably a very good trainer, be good for morale, and never has the stress of having to be a first team player at Chelsea. And to be fair, he probably looks at the scrutiny that people at Sanchez are under and thinks he's not got a bad gig actually there. But yeah, I think, and just to clarify, are you bringing back Petrovic back in your mind to be number one? Is that what we're thinking?
I'm thinking that, I know that sounds a bit silly. Petrovic, yeah, I think you would bring him back to be number one, but you would have to give Penders enough game time to keep him interested, for one, because I don't think he doesn't strike me as the sort of person that's going to want to be sitting on the bench for 50 games next season. If Chelsea get into the Champions League or the Europa League, there's going to be a fair amount of games in that competition. You've got the FA Cup still if they do well in that. If Maresca decides to play a half decent team in the FA Cup this year and actually go for it, you're going to need to give him all those games, like no kind of half measures. And I think that it seems to be more modern now, doesn't it? That you can actually just, goalkeepers seem quite happy to be chopped in and out, whereas in Peter Cech's day and years gone by, number one meant number one. You played every single game. So yeah, I think because they're both so young still, they're both going to need games to play. Petrovic will be 26 next season, so he's going to need to be kind of playing the Premier League. Penders gets all the European games plus FA Cup, League Cup, etc. And then if for some reason Penders just turns out to be incredible, you just make the switch halfway through the season, and maybe Petrovic goes to number two, and you end up selling him the year after or loaning him out. That's what I would do.
Yeah. It's a good age, isn't he, Petrovic? You kind of, in my mind, he was younger, but when you see he's 26 now, you think actually he's a really good age to come in and be the first choice. And so for me, I actually think it's quite an easy decision, because I feel like the whole Strasbourg model is built around exactly these situations. And you've seen it really with Petrovic and Andre Santos, who we'll talk about. This is what it's about. And so for me, I'd be like, Petrovic comes in as number one, as we said. Penders goes straight in and takes his spot at Strasbourg, goes and plays in a top 5 European league, plays 40, 50 games that he needs, and then you review again in the summer. And then you've got Jorgensen, who's a pretty capable number two, isn't he, to basically do the role that you just said there, play those cup games. So I'm really excited by Penders, but I think it's going to do him the world of good to have a season playing at Strasbourg as well. We're playing the right kind of football, playing from the back, all the stuff that Petrovic has learned from as well. So to me, I'd make that call.
Yeah, I wouldn't have any issue with that. Again, if Penders needs a year of experience, I wouldn't have any issue with that. I suppose I'm just leaving a little bit of wriggle room that if Penders is better than we all think, there'd be no reason he could almost come into the team straight away. I think they'll know in pre-season, and we'll see some pre-season games, I'm sure. And I know pre-season isn't the best time to look at people, because as with Chelsea's pre-season last year, it was dreadful, and you couldn't really make your mind up who was good and who was bad. But I just feel like they will know quite soon if he's ready to come straight in. But I'd be happy to loan him and keep Jorgensen as two and have Petrovic as number one.
Decent. And we could actually pass for Stuart and Winstanley, by the way. I don't know if you've seen what they look like. I feel like we could, as a fancy dress one day, we could probably pass as those two. And this is, I guess, one of the most interesting things is that this is probably the area that we might have thought definitely spend. And a few months ago, maybe was thinking that way, but maybe on reflection with what Petrovic has done and the write-ups and penders, we're now saying, look, we've spent enough money in those positions. Let's hope that we don't have to go out and spend that 70 million on a top keeper. We're thinking we give it another go.
Yeah, I think obviously with the articles that are coming out about the goalkeepers, you get a sense that they're not looking to buy one. So that's sort of playing into my thoughts a little bit too. But I think we both agree. We've sort of mentioned it to each other that if Petrovic was in goal this season for us, I think we're probably having a very different season altogether. I think we've got a lot more points on the board. So I think he's a very capable goalkeeper, and I don't think goalies always need to be like, yeah, of course you want a world class goalkeeper. I'm about to say you don't need a world class goalkeeper, but they don't have to be the best player on the pitch. Do you know what I mean? They just got to be capable and good enough, get the job done. You know, Chelsea have got so many players. You know, we're going to go through them all in a minute, but if they can't win games with the players on this list here, then we've got trouble. So I think the goalkeeper just needs to be solid, safe, and sound, and that will do me.
That's a great shout. Petrovic could be that man to just help you grease the wheels for Penders, who might be that absolute world-class goalkeeper. Agreed.
Absolutely.
Okay, so right backs. I think this is an easy and quick one. We've got Reece James, who'll be 26, Malo Gusto, who's 22, and both pretty happy with those two, I would say.
Keep and keep.
Excellent.
Although
and Reece James
Gusto has had a not his best season, but yeah, you're not going to replace him for, what did we pay for him? About 15 million or something. He's very, very cheap, wasn't he? So, and at 22 years of age, I think he's got a lot of growing to do. So yeah, I'm happy with them too.
100%. And yeah, Reece James is a right back, not a centre midfielder in our squad building. And then left backs, maybe a bit more of a talking point here. So we've got Marc Cucurella, who'll be 27, and Renato Vega, who I'm classifying as a left back in this makeup, he'll be 23. Where are you sat on those two?
Obviously, Cucurella is a 100% keep, as he's arguably been our best player this season at times. Vega is a different story for me. I think the fact that, it depends who you want to listen to. People are saying that he asked to play centre half, and Maresca basically told him, absolutely not. You're not moving positions. You're playing as a left back. He was obviously adamant he wanted to play centre half because that's his favourite position. Now, while these conversations weren't had when they bought the player, you know, it's beggars belief. I don't really know. But the fact that he doesn't want to stay and wasn't prepared to stay around with us in January sort of screams a little bit of, I don't know, maybe a bit petulant, perhaps. So for me, I put sell or keep originally in my head. Then I put, but we'll probably loan him. I think he'll be another loan. I think they'll get another £5 to £10 million loan fee for him, and they'll just keep doing that model. And he's an easy one to do because if Juventus want him that badly, they'd probably be quite happy just to loan him for another £5 million, and it keeps their costs down, and we still get a fee back for a player that's, well, he's not played for us really, is he? So he's sort of a nothing player to me at the moment. But I as a player, I quite like him. But I think for me, he's a loan.
Okay, so he comes out of the squad, and then are we thinking we take a punt then on someone like Caleb Wiley, who's the youngster we bought from the US a while back? He'll be very young, or are we looking to bring someone, a new signing in? It's a tricky one, isn't it? Because you got Cucurella, who's effectively a guaranteed starter at this point. So it's a little bit of that. Who's gonna come in and be happy to play second fiddle? He's not a kid. I mean, he's a kid, Caleb Wiley, but he's 20. He'll be 20 at the start of next season. So, yeah, that might be something they consider.
I don't love the fact when Reece James and Gusto go over to left back. I don't love it, but I think if Cucurella, look, let's say Chelsea play 60 games next season as a rough number. If Cucurella is going to play 55 of them games, if all being well and there's no injuries, I think you can just about move Reece James and Gusto into left back, even Levi Colwill for a week, Chalobah I think you can probably, without having to spend another £40 million on a backup player, I think they can probably just fudge it enough. That would be, if I was building this squad, I wouldn't be looking to spend another £30, £40 million on another left back. Or, like you say, you've got that Caleb Wiley. But I don't think he's ready. From what I'm hearing, I don't think he's quite there yet. Maybe there's somebody in the academy that can come through. That's always a possibility. But for me, yeah, I wouldn't be replacing Vega. I mean, Cucurella seems to be a very hardy player. And I think he's one of those sort of bit of a throwback. I think he tends to play through injury. So I think he's quite robust. I wouldn't be looking to invest there.
Yeah, I mean, that Caleb Wiley can't get in the Watford team at the moment in the Championship, so it doesn't fill you with a huge amount of hope. They've got that Samuel Smith, haven't they, who's the left back? He's very, very highly rated in the youth academy. So again, I think you're right. It doesn't feel like a position you want to be going smashing out loads of money on. So maybe they'd consider the second left back being maybe someone like him. But okay, so we're going in with one left back then, and a youngster, we think, to cover the second spot.
Mm-hmm.
In there. Centre backs. Okay, there's a list here. So in centre backs, we think we want to go with 5 to start the season. That's how we think the squad makeup will probably make sense. So the list we have, again in order of age, is Tosin Adarabioyo is 28, Disasi as well as 28 at the start of next season, Trevor Chalobah 26, Badiashile 25, Wesley Fofana 25 as well, Levi Colwell 23, and then Josh Ashupong at 20. There's obviously a few other youngsters that you could add into the group there, but we think probably they're the most realistic kind of candidates for this conversation. Joe, not Josh Ashupong, Joe Kevin, you are the resident centre half of the pod. So yeah, give us I guess let's start with who you've definitely got in your squad for next season.
Well, I'm sort of looking at it through Maresca's eyes a little bit. So I'll give you my list, and then I'll tell you why I'm doing it. But so I'm keep all my keeps: Levi Colwell, Wesley Fofana, Trevor Chalobah, and Tosin Adarabioyo. Now that's who I'm keeping, and that might be a little bit controversial. The only reason is I think he prefers Tosin. They brought him in for a reason. He's an experienced head. Everybody likes him around the training ground. He's quite he's experienced at the age of 28 he's going to be. But I think he's a good figure to have around. I think Josh Ashington, as brilliant as he is, and I think he's going to be brilliant. If it's not for us, it's going to be for somebody else. I think he's a really good player. I think he probably needs to play more football. So I think he's a loan for me. And then I've got, unfortunately, I've put Badiashile and Disasi as sells. Whether we can get the money for them, I'm not too sure. Badiashile, I think it is obviously has got a chance of staying. Personally, I just don't think he's good enough. I don't think he's going to be good enough. He's 25, and I think by now we should have seen like a big improvement in him. Wesley Fofana is also 25, or going to be 25. Sorry, next season, and I think they're miles apart. I think Fofana's way ahead of him. I know they're playing different sides of the pitch, but for me, I don't think they're going to get the £40 million they want to get for Trevor Chalobah, so they'll end up keeping him. Tosin's an older head and a good bit of experience. Levi Colwell is potentially future captain material. And Wesley Fofana, they've just paid £70 million for. And yes, he's injury prone, but he's a very good player. So for me, it's Benoit Badiashile is out, Disasi is out, as sells, and Josh Ashington is the loan. And then we got room there to purchase one as well.
That's an interesting one. Yeah, I mean, I am inclined to agree with you because it's effectively we're talking about. I think that some of them are obvious there, but I think that the tricky one is basically Chalobah or Badiashile, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm inclined to agree with you but I think the football finances and the potential of pure profit on Trev Chalobah might mean that he ends up being the one that is sold. And I wonder if they'll do that and keep Badiashile with that in mind. But this is our game, so we get to choose, and we get to choose Trev Chalobah. So then it does obviously leave room for us to buy one. We've been linked to the lad from Bournemouth. Is it? How do you say it? Hodgson?
Hodgson. Yeah. That's
Hodgson.
Can I interrupt you, Sheen? Because Reece James has just scored an unbelievable free kick for England.
Oh, amazing!
Yeah, it's an unbelievable goal. Sorry, just had to throw that in there. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant! Great stuff.
Sorry, you were saying
take him off. Yeah, take him off before he gets injured. That's brilliant news. Well done, Reece. Okay, so let's call Howson, Poulsen, whatever you want to call him. Um, would he be on your list? Anyone else that you like the look of in terms of that extra centre back?
I,
Again,
I've
he's young.
I've got to be brutally honest. I have not seen him play. So on that front, I'd be lying. I'd be sitting in, to try and give you some false information. I don't know enough about him. The one that's interesting is that Kirkes from Bournemouth. He's on loan. Is he from Real Madrid or Atletico Madrid? It's one of the Madrid teams, I believe. He's on loan from Bournemouth, and everybody is going to be sniffing around him. I think he's got a buyout fee of about 30 million. And he's like the
Yeah,
top.
he's brilliant. He's more of a left back though, I think.
Oh well, maybe maybe you're right, but
Yeah,
um,
he's brilliant. Though. Maybe we put him down as our left back option.
yeah, maybe you put him down as that. But sense back wise, again, I like my defenders to defend. I've mentioned the fact that I think Badir, Chile, and Fofana are quite loose in the way they play. They're quite floopy, for want of a better word. I don't ever feel like they're strong play. They're clearly they're big, strong boys. It's just they have a very lackadaisical style of play, and I prefer my centre
Yeah,
halves to be a bit more robust, hard to beat, uglies. Hit people. But yeah, I just feel like we let teams come onto us, like Arsenal at the weekend. I felt like Badir Shield was, I don't know, he just has this very sort of slow. The build up's all too slow. Like they don't get on with stuff, and I just prefer my defenders to be a bit more blood and guts, a bit more gusto about them, sort of thing. And that's a part of the reason why I don't want Badir Shield at the club anymore. I just can't stand watching him play. Um, in terms of replacements, I haven't got one off the top of
there's
my
two.
head. I still like that Milinkovic
Well, there's
from
two. Yeah, I was gonna say there's two at Forest that you like, aren't there?
yeah, and the other boy, I forget his name now. Can you remember his name?
Murillo.
Murillo, that's it. Yeah. So Milinkovic and Murillo, I like both of them, and I think Murillo would be the one that we would probably more likely go for because he fits the player profile more than Milinkovic. Obviously, he's a bit older, and yeah, I think Murillo's just got that sort of he's got that little bit of flair that Chelsea seem to go for. The thing that I've just said I
Yeah,
don't want, but I think with Murillo too, he's a big strong boy. He's not
yeah,
all sort of flicks and farts. I think he has got a little bit of steel behind him. So again, if you could potentially get one of those out of the club, then absolutely out of Nottingham Forest, we were doing really well. But again, they might be in the Champions League next season, and it might not be possible. But yeah, I'd like to
true.
see somebody come in to kind of help the likes of Levi Colwill to sort of maybe a slightly older head would be good, but I don't think we're going to go down the road. We seem to be going younger and younger and younger. So, yeah, not too sure on who it's going to be, mate. But yeah, that leaves us wriggle room to buy one more.
Yeah, makes sense. I think that again, from what you're sort of reading in the press, it sounds like that is one of the areas that they would consider spending money. So that makes sense. Um, yeah, I think I'd be happy with any of those three names actually mentioned. To be honest, I think the one that I'd probably go for would be Milinkovic because I think he's a bit older at 28. He's massive. He's 195 centimeters. He's huge, but you just feel like the other two are much more likely in terms of profile, aren't they? So
Yeah,
it's
Milinkovic will get my
it's an
vote as
area where
well.
you're yeah, it's an area where you're there's so much reliant on the development of Colwell and the fitness of Fofana, isn't it? There to make you feel comfortable at the back, as we've seen this year. You get an injury in that area, and the drop down's been massive. So yeah, that's interesting one. Right. So next area is central midfielders, and this is a real list of players here, and quite a tough area. So we think that again in this idea of players for position, we're probably shortlisting down to 5 of this bunch of 8 that I'm about to list out. So we've got KDH, Kin Disbury Hall. We're putting him down as a centre midfielder, not as a right winger, as we've seen him recently. But he's 27 in the start of next season. Enzo Fernandez, 25. Moises Caicedo, 24. Andre Santos and Romeo Lavia, both 22. Kani Chukwuemeka is also 22. Leslie Ukachukwu, 21. And Dario Isugo at 21, who is our new signing, obviously coming in. I think I'll kick this one off, Joe, with I guess my 5, and then we'll see what you think. So mine would be Enzo Fernandez, Moises Caicedo, Andre Santos, who I'm really excited about. really excited about having him at the club. It feels like we've been almost waiting, doesn't it, for like 18 months to see him as a proper Chelsea player. He'd be number 3. Romeo Lavia, praying to the gods that he can stay fit, would be my 4th. And then the new guy, Dario Sugo, um, who looks like a mini Casado, which is exciting in his own way. So they would be my 5. Any disagreement from you there?
Well, I could put this on the screen and show you. They're the 5 that I've got as well.
Oh, that's nice.
I wasn't
I
sure
wonder
if you were going to go for like the Ugochukwu because of the year at Southampton. I wonder if you were going to go down that road, but I just feel now they've bought that. Is it Isugo? You say it?
Yeah,
I feel like
probably.
they really want that sort of player to succeed. And I've got down Sell, Kin and Dewsbury Hall, Sell, Carney, Chook, and I've put loan Ugochukwu again.
Yeah, that makes sense. I feel like with Kane, I mean, he could be in the next section actually as attackers really, rather than centre midfield. You could argue it both ways. It's such a shame with him, isn't it? We've said it a few times on the pod, but he's always looked such a good player when he's played for Chelsea. I think injuries have been a big part of his story, and you kind of just, even as a Chelsea fan, just don't want to really waste any more of his career at this point. Just
No.
go and play football. He could play football at. He could play for most of the Premier League teams outside the top 6, probably be a starting player. He'd be brilliant at somewhere like in Italy. We've seen him, looking good off the bench at the moment for Dortmund. You just want him to go and crack on with his career, don't you? And I kind of feel like maybe Ugochukwu, he's only a year younger, but almost the same thing. If he comes back to Chelsea next year, he's just going to be sitting there not getting much football, is it, at this point? And you've seen there's a player there as well. With Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, who's going to buy him? Is it going to be one of those where we're loaning him for the next 2-3 years, drink water 2.0, or Chelsea take a hit on it and just try and get a deal done?
In my opinion, on him, I felt as though there was a lot of people that wanted to buy him in January. I think we could have sold him in January. I think so. I actually do think we could sell it. I think even Spurs wanted him. There was actually quite a few teams.
Oh, wow.
There was quite a few teams in for him. I think we weren't sure. I think the manager still quite likes him. Wanted to give him a chance this season. Look, he could be there next season. I don't personally want him there. Not that he's probably a great lad. He's not a bad player. I've seen a lot worse players play for Chelsea. But I just feel as though if they can maybe get, would we pay 30 million? If we could get 25 million for him, I think they would just do it immediately. These owners, the one thing they will do, they will sell. If an offer comes in, they'll realise that his book value has gone down slightly on the fee that we paid. So if someone does come in for 23, 24 million quid, I think they will just let him go because there's no point hanging him. I think they've said they don't want to keep players hanging on, do they? They just rather get them in, get them out, and move on to the next player. So, and they've got to balance their own books. They've brought some players in already that haven't arrived at the club yet. So we're going to have to sell players too. So I think he might be actually easier than you think to sell, personally.
Yeah. Oh, that would be good. To be honest, I have to say, he comes across, whenever I've seen him, as just a really good lad. He's been, when in the interviews, he clearly absolutely loves this opportunity to play for Chelsea. And he's one of those, he's clearly not a bad player at all. And if he went to somewhere like a West Ham, for example, I bet he'd look pretty decent as he always did at Leicester. So hopefully, we can find a good move for him, and it's not one of those kind of career ruiners, which it did feel a little bit like for Drinkwater at Chelsea. But hopefully, he was a bit older, so it's a different story. Okay, the next section we're calling the attackers, and this is really those 3 positions before the centre forward. So your wingers and number 10. It's a long list, Joe, of players. So long, in fact, that when I sent Joe the notes ahead of the recording today of just the list of the players, Joe messaged me and went, "You've forgotten one." I was like, "Oh no, who have I forgotten?" It was like, Cole Palmer. So he is on the list of keeps, spoiler alert, but I forgot Cole Palmer. But it's a long list. It's a long list of 11 names here. So we have in this group, in order of age, Raheem Sterling, he'll be 30. Christopher Nkunku, 28. Jadon Sancho, probably 26. Mikhailo Mudryk, 25. Pedro Neto and João Felix, also 25. Noni Madueke, 24. Cole Palmer, 23. Esteval Willian, 19. Tyreek George, 19. And then Kendry Pyers, he'll be 18. So we think that they'll probably want 7 players in this area. So effectively 2 for every position plus 1 extra as a spare. Joe, I'm going to kick it over to you. Who you keeping? That's probably the easiest way to start, isn't it?
Well, I think you're going to argue with me here. This is
At
maybe a
last.
little bit controversial, maybe, but I'm just going to roll with it. I'm just going to start on the list that we've got in front of me. So, Noni Madueke, I've got as a sell. Nkunku,
Oh,
sell. I've got Jadon Sancho, send back to Man United and pay the £5 million fee.
wow.
Raheem Sterling, sell. We won't get a lot of money for him, but I put sell. João Felix, sell. Mykhailo Mudryk, I've put at the moment non-applicable because I don't know what's happening with him. If he's failed a drugs test, then no one's going to buy him anyway. And if he's failed, I don't know how long his ban's going to be, so I've not looked too much into it. If he can come back and play for Chelsea next season, then fine. But I just don't see anybody buying him. He's not been playing well enough, and he's also failed a drugs test. So I think we're going to be stuck with him one way or the other. As a loan, I've put Kendry Paez. And my keeps are Pedro Neto, Esteban Willian, Cole Palmer, and Tyreek George. So that does allow, if we were to sell all of those players, we would be recouping quite a lot of money. And I think it would allow us to invest it in somebody else.
Sorry. Need 3.
Yeah, but look, I can understand that we might end up keeping Sancho. This is just my personal opinion, sat here right now.
Yeah.
I kind of, we had a little chat earlier on. You mentioned about the £25 million fee. It is peanuts these days. If we were to do the deal and pay £25 million for Sancho, we could probably sell him for 35 million in a year or two. I don't ever see us losing money on him. Actually, it is a very cheap offer, and he would still be in 2 years' time. He'd still be 28. So you've still got plenty of years in him. I just think that that's one that we might end up doing, which would keep us. That would be 5 ins or 5 keeps, I should say. And then the thing is with Chelsea, because they buy so many youngsters and they're looking at so many players all around the world, they may already have lined up somebody to come in. And do you know what I mean? Like it's a very hard. Because we buy and sell so many people, it's hard to keep up sometimes. They would be the 4 or 5 I would definitely keep. The other ones I think are either out the door in the shape of Nkunku. I think he's already gone mentally. He doesn't seem to be wanting to play for the club anymore, really. Madueke is possibly the other controversial one. There'll be people that absolutely love him, and there'll be people that absolutely hate him. And I'm not in either camp. I'm quite meh about him. I think he's got room to grow. I think we could get a lot of money for him. Newcastle were willing to pay upwards of 60 million last summer. I think he's had a better season than last year already. So I think you could quite possibly get another 65 million pound for him next year if you wanted to sell him. But do it early enough so that you're not doing it on the last week of deadline. Not the last week of deadline day, but the last week of transfers. That's when Newcastle came in with their bid, and I think it was way too late. And if you remember, he got the hat-trick against Wolves. And we were sort of saying, he's never going to go now. But he's the one that I think that he could be. I think Noni's got that sort of thing where he could be brilliant, or he's just going to turn out to be another bang average winger. Yeah, a good player. Not bang average. That's really unfair. He's obviously a very good player, but someone that's not going to quite hit the heights of a Palmer or someone. I just think that he's not quite for me.
Yeah. It sounds like part of that reason for that might be that he does still have those stories coming about him being late for training and just some of the attitude not being quite there. But that said, yeah, we do disagree on this area. For me, it's a no-brainer to keep Madueke on the basis that when he's playing, he's one of our most productive attackers. I think we've just seen in the last couple of weeks, and in much the way that we've missed Jackson, I feel like we've missed Madueke. But also on the fact that with Esteban Willian coming in, who again is another one of those that we're very excited about. He's going to very likely play off the right, very similar sort of position that Madueke. And I think who better than those two to almost fight for that position? You've got Madueke, who's got a bit of attitude, but has plenty of game experience under his belt. And then this young, Esther Williams is going to really be pushing him for every place. So I think actually as a balance on the right with those two for next season, would be more than happy. I think the easy ones to quickly agree with, I think Raheem Sterling, you sort of take what you can at this point, don't you, to get him off the books. That's an easy one in terms of salary as well. And Kunku, we've talked about enough on the pod just to say it's a real shame, I think, would be the kind of key word I'd put there. It's just a real shame it hasn't worked out for him at Chelsea. And yeah, likewise with Mudryk, he's just an NA, isn't he? I think it's more than likely he's going to be banned and will be kicking the can down the road. And yeah, Paez, I think will need a loan coming in at 18. There's sort of no question there. I think he's just a little bit behind Willian, isn't he, Esteval, in terms of his development. Sancho, let's talk about Sancho a little bit more. The reason I think Chelsea might just do the deal now on Sancho is that, again, looking at the makeup of this squad, if you buy Sancho, it's not a huge fee, as you said. You probably get the money back. And Chelsea have already spent near enough 45 million on a winger that I think they have in mind for that position, which is Quenda from Sporting.
Yes, of course.
But they've given him back for a year.
That's right. Yeah.
So it's almost like kicking the can down the road there. And I just think that they might go, Sancho's an easy deal to get done. Keep him in the squad. And then the talk is they do want one more winger, which would then be our number 7 in that spot. So you basically, in my list here, then I'd be saying, right, you've got Cole Palmer, Esvel Willian, Pedro Neto, Torrey George, Noni Madueke, Jadon Sancho. That's 6. And then there's room for a new signing to come in. They're talking about wanting a right-footed winger, aren't they? Who could obviously come in off the left. That would be my view on it. The other elephant in the room, which we briefly mentioned there, but breezed past, is it just makes the João Felix signing just look all the more bizarre, doesn't it? And probably my decision on Sancho actually is with João Felix. It's like pick one, because I feel like I'd be happy with either of them. If you had to put a gun to my head, I'd probably go with João Felix, to be honest. So maybe I'm flipping my decision here, just because I think he can play off the left. He can play in that number 10 that if Palmer needs a break, I think we could almost have done with him, ironically, as Palmer's had a bit of a downturn, we could have done with João Felix in the last few weeks. So maybe stick with what you've got and save the money on Sterling. But yeah, give me your thoughts on Felix.
Well, all I can tell you is this. He played his first game for AC Milan and he was wonderful. I think he scored the winning goal, I want to say. Since then, the media basically can't stand him. They hate him. They cannot wait to get rid of him. So he does that classic Felix thing where he did an interview with an Italian outlet and said that AC Milan is the best club in the world. They are, they've got all this heritage. I can't wait to put the red and black stripes on. All the players that, he goes through the list of the thing. But if you go back to all the other clubs that he's played for, Atletico, Barcelona, Chelsea, he said the same thing about all the clubs that he's been to.
Yeah.
So I don't think he's too fussy about where he really plays. I think as long as they're paying him the dollar. So I think he's just one of them players, unfortunately, that he's probably arguably the most talented footballer in the entire squad. If you gave him a football and said, can you do 100 kick-ups, sitting on the floor, standing in the red, whatever, like he could probably do it. But when it comes to the main part of why you're a football player on that field, he just doesn't seem to have he just doesn't deliver, does he? He just doesn't have that little spark in him. There's just something missing from his game. And ability is one thing, but you've got to have application. He just doesn't seem to apply himself in the correct way. And then bear in mind that I think Atletico paid well over 100 million, might be 120 million pounds for him when he was very, very young. Whether that's had an effect on him, and it never quite worked out for him there, and he's had loan after loan after loan. And is it just a case of being rejected by so many teams? Barcelona have rejected him, Chelsea have rejected him twice. It sounds like AC Milan are going to reject him. Atletico have bought him, played him, didn't like him, and they've rejected him. So has he got a little bit of that feeling of nobody? He doesn't know where his home is.
Mm.
I feel like he's just stuck in the ether. Um, People probably tell him he's a great player. He's probably got his agent probably telling him he's a great player. But unfortunately, when it comes to goals and assists and the thing that matter in his position, he just doesn't seem to deliver those things. So, mate, I think he's a wonderful football player. I've said it before. He's a brilliant. I would, he's someone you pay money to go and watch. But unfortunately,
Mm.
when it comes to playing in a five-a-side ground team, he'd be amazing. But I think just for the reasons that I've just said there, for some reason, he doesn't quite have it between the ears, and that's the reason why I just wouldn't keep him at the club.
It's almost one of those players where, because he's obviously been so good, he's so good. If you see him in the Conference League and
Mm.
obviously in some of these lower league cup games and stuff. If he went over to Saudi, where he'd still get good money but be up against a lower level of player, he'd be unbelievable, wouldn't he? He'd absolutely rip it up, and almost it would be probably good for him because he just loved being one of the main men in that league. Um, okay, I'm in terms of the squad building. Then I think for realism, Chelsea are only likely to. Uh, they'll definitely buy one. I guess you could argue they could do a loan on or a buy on a second. So are we going with you're not going to be budged on Sancho or Felix? You don't
No,
want them
no,
in the squad.
I'd be certainly budged on Sancho because I'd forgotten. I was actually looking at this list and the chap we just signed from Sporting there. I forgot that we loaned him back, so I was actually looking for his name. But yeah, you're right. That's why he's not on this list. So that's your point there about paying the £25 million and just having it done with and keeping him for another year. Um, he is a quality player. All right, okay. His numbers this year, not this season, this calendar year haven't been great. Is it two shots and goal or something? It's crazy.
It's not great.
But I think that he'd be one that I would certainly be happy to keep. Again, it's just squad building. I'd be happy to
Yeah,
keep him.
yeah,
But the reason I said send him back is because that's just a personal choice. If it was my money, if I would be getting rid of him. But I think that at that price, you probably just take him. And hope that the likes of Willian and stuff and Neto that they all make a bit of a jump next season, and we might not even need to use him, but he's
yeah.
still there in
That's fair.
emergency.
Yeah. Okay, I think that feels like a nice balance then in that attacking option. We've got six good ones, a good mix of age actually as well, and then someone new. Is there anyone in the new position area that you would really like? I mean, when we did this a year ago, by the way, we both were like, oh, we'd like that Matoma from Brighton. But is there anyone that jumps out to you at this stage?
I still like him. I still think again he's a Premier League proven player. The other one who I do like is the Palace boy, Eze.
Eze?
Yeah,
Yeah, Eze's great.
I think he is. I think he's really stepped up this season. I think he's had to with Elise going to obviously Bayern Munich. I actually wondered if his numbers and his form would drop off a cliff because when
Mm.
you've got somebody, it's like when you have two wide receivers in American football. If you have two brilliant wide receivers, they're both taking the attention of the defense. And I wondered if Elise going, you can just kind of you can stand on Eze and just mark him out of the game. But he's managed to score goals, create assists. He's been really exciting to watch. Again, he fits the player profile for Chelsea. I don't think he would. I mean, he would still cost you a fair amount of money. It's Crystal Palace. Their chairman is quite a hard negotiator by trade. So yeah, but I think you could probably again he'd be 15 million quid, wouldn't he? But I think that that's the going
Mm.
rate for any player these days, isn't it? It's if Chelsea come in for a player, you're probably looking at 50, 60 million quid. So Eze will be someone I like, and again, it's Premier League proven. Elise I would have said,
Yeah, I like that one.
but obviously he's already gone to Bayern Munich, so that's a done deal. That's already happened. But I think
Yeah,
Eze
that
would be
one's
it's not maybe the name that some people will be expecting, but I think you've got enough razzmatazz in Cole Palmer, in Estelle Willian. I think you sometimes you just need good, honest, solid, direct players. And I think that Eze fits that bill.
yeah, I'd like either of them would be great options. Okay, we like that. That's a good bunch, and again, particularly with I mean, we only mentioned him briefly, but I think it's a huge credit to how good he's looked in the small number of cameos that he's had at Chelsea that Tyreek George is in our list there, because you would trust him if he was given games. And I think he actually has been a bit unlucky, in games like against Arsenal, that he didn't get proper game time. But yeah, let's move on to the action end of the pitch, centre forwards. We think that, again, likely that Chelsea will want to in this area, and there's not many in this list. We
No.
have, and again, I haven't put everyone in, but I've put the most likely options here, which are Nicholas Jackson, who'll be 24, Armando Broja, who'll be 23, and Mark Gui, who'll be 19. I laugh in there because I think, again, another one of those names that we've probably said about 100 different times in different ways on this pod. I think this is an easy one, and I think we're both in agreement, which is that we keep Nicholas Jackson, we loan Mark Gui, and then with Broja, it's either a loan or a sell, isn't it? But probably a loan, in the fact that his value will be so low at this point that you're better off trying to get him fit again and get his value back up to where it could be. But yeah, I mean, any disagreement on that before we talk about how we plug the gap that then creates?
No, I think the Broja thing, the reason they got him to sign a 5-year deal was for this reason. Was he was coming off an injury at the time. I think he might have even been injured when we actually started, when he signed his contract. It's given them. I think if they got a big enough offer, don't get me wrong, if they got 30, I think if they got a bid of 30 million, they would take it in a heartbeat. If they were getting offers of 8 and 9 and 10, I think they would, like you say, they could probably get a loan fee for 4 million, and then next year get another 4 million. I think they would rather keep him, hope he does well somewhere, and they might get a fee for him. I could see him going abroad. Actually, he's had a couple of loans now for English teams. It's not worked out. I think the next step for him is to go to France, go to Portugal, go somewhere where he can just, I don't want to say score easy goals, because that's really unfair on those leagues, but maybe where it's less. Yeah, he's a big physical boy, but he has got talent. I just feel like he needs to just leave the British Isles and just go somewhere where he can just, no one knows him in a weird way, and just kind of be free and do his thing. So personally, for Broja, yeah, I'm with agreement there. I think we would probably loan him, but if a big enough offer, we'd sell him. Yeah, and Mark, we're going to go with Gui tonight. We've read it all. I really like him. I really, really like this kid. I'm going to say it now. When he first played for Chelsea, and I said to you over WhatsApp, I said, "Oh my God, what on earth is this kid all about? He is bloody dreadful," for the first couple of games, and then slowly but surely, again, it was the Conference League, but he was getting minutes, drip fed minutes, and Joe Cole was really singing his praises. Joe Cole was going on and on and on about him, and it made me think: is he going to the training ground now and again and just like watching and stuff? And I think Joe Cole's a fairly good judge of character when it comes to a player. And then he started to score goals, and he kept nicking goals, and then he got the hat trick in the European competition. And I was really gutted for him when he got that injury, when he came on as a sub, fairly recently, wasn't it? He got that injury, because I think he was just starting to turn the corner. But having said that, again, he'll be 19 next year. If they can get a good loan for him, I don't think it'd be the worst thing in the world, particularly coming off the back of an injury. Might be good for him too. The Premier League is very physical and very fast, as we know. And then obviously, yeah, obvious one in Jackson. He's a definite keep.
Yeah. Okay. And then my question then about the bringing in a new striker. So this is probably the area where Chelsea are likely to go the biggest in terms of money, we think. And I guess the question is how much are you building a striker to compete and support Jackson versus bringing in someone who effectively becomes the new main man? And I think that the obvious names that we've been linked to in that area are Victor Osimhen, Gyökeres, and Liam Delap. And I think there's almost a scale there from, if you bring in Victor Osimhen, he's coming in to be the main man and he's going to want main man money. And you're probably going suddenly, okay, Jackson ends up being his number two and also playing off the left sometimes and all that kind of stuff. Whereas if you go down the other scale and you go with the Liam Delap, he's coming in to compete with Jackson, but they're almost going in. If anything, Jackson's slightly the more senior of those two, isn't he, in terms of Premier League experience and stuff. So where are you putting your chips in this debate? And obviously there are other names, but that we might want to talk about, but they're the ones that are most commonly linked.
I think because of the way Chelsea are now, the player is the lap, isn't it? Because that's the way, that's how they're building a team. Do you know his age? Is he going to be 20? Is that right? Or is he older than that? I'm not, we have to find that out. But he's something. I agree
20,
with
he'll
you.
be 22, Liam
22.
Delap.
Okay. You're
Yeah.
right. Jackson has been at the club. Would have been at the club 2 years. So he's got the upper hand in some ways. He knows the club. He knows the way. He knows our style of play. He would have worked with the manager for a year already. He fits the profile of what we're doing. Osimhen would feel, to me, would just feel like an absolute horse in a pond, wouldn't he? I don't know. Like he's not what we're buying. And you see John Obi Mikel on his podcast. He goes on and on and on about Osimhen coming to Chelsea, and he might be brilliant. He might be absolutely fantastic. He might come and score 20 goals next season, create another 10. His general play might bring all the other players up a notch. I'm one of those people that you need to look at somebody and see that they're a winner, and that can give you a lift. You see winners around you, it immediately makes you feel better as a player. You think, oh God, look at that, look at him coming into the club. When Chelsea evolve, when they're buying, even if they weren't at their pomp, Torres and Shevchenko and Crespo, you look at the guy, oh, he's a winner. He scored 30 goals last season. He's got 40 goals last season. He's got Player of the Year. He's got European Player of the Year. You need those characters in the team to kind of make you build as a club. When you're all kids and you're all on the same level, there's nowhere to sort of look. Where's your hero? Who are you looking up to? Someone torn with it. It's really, really hard. Osimhen would fit that kind of superstar. And Delap is obviously another one. I was listening to two journalists talk about Delap today about possibly playing for England, and who's the next striker behind Harry Kane, and it is Liam Delap. That's the one that's kind of earmarked to be the next guy. But you look around English strikers, who are they apart from Watkins at Aston Villa, who's not had a great season? There's nobody else out there that's English. And the worry is that Harry Kane can't go on forever for England. And who's the next guy? Who's the next cab off the rank, as the old saying goes. Tuchel, I think, is likely to give him a few chances in the next few England matches, possibly. That's the shout, or certainly in friendlies. I don't know. It's a real hard one again, because I think Liam Delap is, when we played against Ipswich this season, I mean, I've never seen a striker give us more of a harder time. He gave every player the absolute runaround. It was embarrassing. It was really embarrassing. But does one game make you a player? He hasn't scored that many goals. But he is playing in one of the worst teams in the Premier League, so that's really hard to sort of judge him on that front as well. So I think he's the one. He's the profile of play. He's got the age. I think he's sort of a bit like Armando Broja in many ways. He has that physical presence. He does a lot of running. He does a lot of dogged running. To be fair, as does Jackson. So I think he would be the guy, and I think you could probably get him for around, again, that 40, 50, 60 million pound mark, and I think that would be Chelsea done. I just don't see us going for a Victor Osimhen, or is it Gorkarez? I don't see that one happening either. I think he's a little bit hit and miss. And again, he's another one coming from a league that not too sure. I think at least with Liam Delap, he's been playing in the Premier League. People have known about him for a long, long time. He's been around the England setup, under 21s, under 18s, etc. Everybody knows him. So I think he would probably be the one that we end up going for. And I think, dare I say it, I might be completely wrong, but I think he'd be my choice.
Yeah, I'm really warm into the Delap option, and I think one is on if there's a practicality to it. Like I say, it's just the most likely, so you kind of warm to that in a weird way. But also, I think I still do really rate Nicholas Jackson. I still think that he really could, we talked about the Drogba curve before and how much he improved at this time at Chelsea. And I'm not saying he'll ever get up to Drogba levels, but I think there is a real player there. And the bringing someone like Delapin, I think it just complements him because they both will do similar things for us. Delap's maybe a bit more of a crash into the box guy, but they're both going to keep running behind. I think that we've not had another person to do that if Jackson's been tiring or off form. I think the ability to have two players who could do something similar, it just gives you something different, doesn't it, in games to be able to go, oh, they're tiring after an hour, bring on Delap, or vice versa. I think that gives us something that we've really lacked this season. So yeah, I don't mind the Delap option. I think practically speaking, it makes a lot of sense. And that rounds our squad out fairly nicely. I think the only area that we're a little bit unclear on is probably who the second left back is. So I've kept that in as a maybe it'll be Vega, maybe it'll be one of the youngsters like Samuel Smith, or maybe we'll go into the market. But you look at the squad and effectively the big three areas that we want to bring in is a new centre back, a winger, and a striker. And my final comment on looking at this squad as a list is, now good to get your thoughts on this, Joe, is that is a really still a very young squad, but it's an improved squad, you'd think, on this year. Everyone is a year older. I look at it and think, I don't think that is a squad that challenges for the Premier League, in my opinion. I think if you had gone out and gone, right, we're bringing in, a Van Dijk level centre back, or, an Alisson type goalkeeper, you might start to go, maybe. But we don't think we can do that, clearly, and that isn't what we've built there. So I think the expectations for that squad becomes go and do what we were doing in the first half of the season, which is we're not going to win the title, but we're in around the conversation, second and third. Go and finish top 2 or 3 next season on the basis that then the season after you fill in those final ingredients that then go, right, we're going to go and challenge for a title. That would be my target for next season. And on top of that, have a run in Europe, hopefully the Champions League, let's wait and see, and go and win another trophy. Just get that kind of feeling back at the club again. That would be my thought on what that would be realistic for that squad. What do you think, Joe?
It's interesting you mentioned Van Dijk there, because there's a big story going around that he's PSG bound, and it's a 2-year deal at 40 million. He's a free transfer. They reckon it's an 80 million pound deal, and that came from a Liverpool fan yesterday that I was speaking to, and they again, they got quite a good knowledge. I mean, look, if it's happening, who knows? But he seems maybe PSG bound, which would be great for everybody in the Premier League, because he's a pain in the arse to play against. I agree with you in the sense that I don't think that team challenges for the title next season. I also agree with you that I think Nicolas Jackson's got a lot to offer, and I think he's got a lot of growing to do, like you said, exactly that. He is on an upwards trajectory, and I wouldn't want to see him pissed off too much, because I think if you get an angry Jackson, it could end up being like a bit of an Nkunku thing this year, where he gets a bit upset and a bit moody and a bit miserable. And I don't think it takes a lot for Jackson to get upset. And then you've got another miserable player in the club, and it's like, oh God, we're back to this sort of Nkunku, miserable, moody nonsense again. So yeah, I think Delap just keeps everything on an even keel. And just as I'm talking, Eze's about to come on for England. Yeah, I think Jackson the Delap signing just helps Jackson. It doesn't hinder him too much, which is good. Yeah, I just want Chelsea to fit. I feel as though that team next year would be still very, very young, and nobody has won the league with a team that young in average age. So, but we just don't know on certain players. If Willian turns out to be what we think he's going to be, and if Cole Palmer, goes on to superstar levels, and Jackson kicks on a bit, and Delap actually, turns out to be a pretty good player. Like, you never know. I'm not saying we are going to win the league, by the way, but I just want Chelsea to be a team that is fun to watch, because at the moment we are really bad to watch. But I don't know. I just feel as though this is a team that can definitely compete. It can definitely get in the Champions League, and I just don't want us to go on another season where we're going to end up losing 8 to 10 league games. I think that's just it's a bit amateurish, and I think we're better than that. And I think the team and the fans deserve more than that. So yeah, for me, we'll be competitive, but not champions.
Yeah. Progression. I think that's the order of. I mean, if we can finish this season well, and it's a lot to be played for, that would be progression. If we can get obviously Champions League, and then next year the progression I think is you're in and around the title talk into the new year, and you're still in the mix in March. Kind of the road that Arsenal sort of have been on, but haven't been able to make that next step. You're kind of wanting to see that momentum next season and go, right, actually, if Chelsea got one or two extra in the summer, they could really do it next year. I think that's what we all want to see, isn't it? So that's our audit of the squad. We'd love to hear your thoughts as well. So you can get in touch via email, which is hello@1905podcast.com, or via Instagram, which is 1905podcast. We'd love to get your thoughts on what you would do the same, what you do differently, and any ideas for who you think we should be bringing in. I've got quite excited about the idea of Eze now, but he is going to be 27 starting next season. I feel like, Chelsea, I
he's an
think
old
that's
boy.
too old. He's an old boy in Chelsea terms, but yeah, he'd be brilliant. So yeah, that is a wrap. Let us know if you enjoyed the episode. It was nice to do it in person with you, Joe.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, really, really good. Yeah, we should go and do a couple more of this, mate. It was good fun.
We will. We'll be there at the bridge together to watch us hopefully beat Spurs in a week's time. And yeah, that's a wrap. Keep it Chelsea, keep it carefree, and up the Chelsea. Those were the Chelsea notes for this week. If you enjoyed the podcast, do us a favour and share it with a fellow Blue. And we'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave us a review wherever you're listening. Wherever you may be, stay carefree, and remember, every little thing's gonna be alright.